Sorry.
Okay, 5:30, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Any agenda adjustments?
None for us.
Any public comment?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 5th? Go ahead.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
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 Okay, I wasn't here for March 13th, but can I get a motion to approve the meeting from March 13th?
I'll second.
Right here?
Yeah, that was just.
Oh, it's the last one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a special one.
That was a special one last Thursday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, it's okay.
yeah, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, is that?
Are you going to abstain since you weren't?
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't here, but you just need a majority vote.
Right.
We have a quorum.
No, I'm just trying to get the minutes right for Linda, so she knows how to record it.
Okay, so I have a motion to discuss the hiring committee appointments.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
So what they're asking is, well, they're asking two things, one of which would require you to nominate one or two of you to take on this role. But they're gearing up for the hiring process. They are definitely looking for any comments you have on the job description ASAP, because they plan to post the position on Monday. And then they're gonna start a hiring process, and they would like one or two trustees to join their committee. I think there's select board members, DRB members.
So you know when it's gonna happen?
They'll have to work with the group that is the committee to figure out what works for interview schedules and stuff. So they're asking, they said no more than two, obviously, but one or two is what they're looking for. If anyone's interested.
I guess I'll do it. Tom?
Unless you want to.
I'm happy to do it, but I'm gonna be gone the whole first week of April. I don't know when.
Well, it's
That's gonna
gonna,
be in.
I'm sure you don't need it's a big group,
Happening right away.
so you're not gonna need a,
Well, and they're only gonna post it this coming Monday, so there's gonna be, usually give people 3 or 4 weeks to get their resumes in, right?
Yeah.
So they probably won't gear up, I wouldn't think, no one's told me this, but I would say middle of April is gonna be the earliest they're really gonna gear up. Now, I don't know that to be true, but
well, they're probably not gonna get anybody working for the same price as the last guy, that's for sure.
yeah.
Not even twice as much.
So in your motion, you just, all 3 of you said yes, and we can only have 2,
Well,
so.
your first two, fine.
So,
Really, I just say, I'm not gonna fight for
Quickly make a
it.
motion to nominate the two of them.
there you go. Okay, so is the motion Tom and Bob, is that the motion?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And do you have any comments on the job description? Did you get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, it's a lot.
It
It is a lot.
So I'd say if you have any comments, I'm not gonna be here the rest of the week. So either send them in to Penny and she will throw something at me as I say this, but she'll probably forward them to Brent. Or you could forward them directly, any comments you have directly to Brent. On the job
So
description.
I'm fine the way it is now, but we'll see what happens when somebody applies.
Yep.
Do they have a pay band in here?
I don't believe they included the pay band. I don't know. What I'm sure the town does, but I didn't think to ask. I should have asked when he asked me for this.
I mean,
Tom, did you have, you said it's a lot, but did you have any specific items where you think there are questions or?
No, I was just, I mean, there's a lot of requirements, a lot of things involved.
It's a very detailed job description,
Very
for sure.
Is it a 1 person or 2 person, that kind of thing?
well, it used to be one person.
Yeah,
We're putting it out for one. That's
Yeah.
what the job description is written for.
is it? Okay, cause I know there was still talking about, do we need to get
Word.
2?
Oh, yeah.
They were talking about 2, but it looks like they landed it. My read of this job description is they landed it
Yeah,
one.
they look like they put the 2
Yeah.
together. Okay. Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
perfect. Thank you all.
Question.
Yep.
Comment.
Yeah.
So, that position also involves an health officer,
involve what?
health officer.
Don't remember.
Yeah, that's in there.
They removed it.
They're talking about separating it out.
I think there might be.
They have,
So it's section 3 position.
I think there's only gonna be the planning, zoning, position,
Mhm.
and then they're still talking about whether to include the health piece or not.
But the health office is included in the job description,
It is right now,
yeah,
I know they're still wondering about that,
but I mean. I don't know how many hours a month
not a lot.
the health officer is actually involved, it's not much.
In many towns, a health officer is a volunteer. You know, when you get, you know, so, and in some places it's attached to a function like the.
But they need qualifications.
They definitely need well, in many times they don't have qualification, it's wonderful that ours did.
Did that fall into the health officer, were they the ones, cause again, I used to talk to Todd about, like, if we had a situation where a landlord wasn't paying for the water. And that was problematic, and I think it was.
But I
the
don't
health
think, if you shut the
officer.
water off, it'd be a health
Yeah.
department, but just not paying, I don't think.
Well, I know, but not paying constitutes being shut off, so I think
Yeah.
Todd used
To
to
you
help.
it does, but until you shut it off, it's not a health hazard. I know, he was going out for stuff like bed bugs and, you know, unsanitary conditions, garbage all over the cellar,
Mhm.
rats.
Was it noise on ordinance too?
Is that part of the
I
health
just
officer? or-
never, there was,
Sorry.
trying to give that part of the job teeth, you know, that actually you can reinforce some of that stuff, 'cause otherwise it's just. Can't really do anything, you just,
Because
They have ordinances, but if you don't have anybody that can enforce them, they're no good.
yeah, so. That'd probably be some of, I would think, maybe the things we'll talk about.
And this town doesn't give occupancy permits, so. On big buildings they do. You know, Mink of Donza has to get an occupancy permit, but, these little two families. As far as I know, they don't.
Don't believe we do in this town, some towns do, all depends.
So. Anyways,
Okay, so I got what I need to get to the town.
do I have a motion to discuss the excavator purchase?
I'll make motion to discuss the excavator purchase.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Oh,
No, just,
Do you wanna discuss that first?
Yeah, we wanna,
Okay,
yeah.
so,
sorry.
you know, we've been realizing how often and how much we hire excavators. You know, as you see in the package, like both electric and water, it's about 40,000 a year of hiring of excavators. This year, we actually had more of that than that to do. Doesn't mean we do it, and sometimes they're available, like thank God one was this morning with the water break. And sometimes we have to wait a number of days. Last year, we had a service that was leaking, that bubbled up on Bridge Street for 5, 6 days before we could fix it, for lack of an excavator. And so, you know, as we've thought about that and we started realizing how much we're actually spending on it, we're also realizing like a mid-size excavator, nothing huge, nothing's gonna break through ledge and you know, big ledge and like the concrete under Portland Street. But the mid-size excavator, 57.5, 60 horsepower, which is the size we're looking at, aren't, but when you consider you're spending 40 grand a year, it doesn't take long for it to pay for itself. So we started realizing that and started looking at it. And I think as you'll see in the packet, it's about a 4-year payback with the most expensive option, because the one that's cheaper than that was a brand we weren't familiar with. So when we wrote the memo, I wrote it on the known, which happened to be more expensive, rather than the unknown, which is 20,000 less.
What's the known?
The known is a Kubota, which we know the quality of those, everybody's comfortable with that. The unknown is a Sane.
That's Sam.
Sane. It sounds like we've been doing a lot of research on those, and it seems like the quality is very good. People who use them are very happy with them, so if you decide to have us go forward, we'll probably go forward with that one, is what I would expect.
Did you price a John Deere or a Case?
We've not yet, we could.
I would just assume buy one that's American made.
Yeah.
Well, the one reason that I was looking at, the only reason I was personally looking at a Kubota was, Charles Curtis, the one that does my off-road pole sets. That exact model of the 57 is the one that he sets my poles with, and it's, goes very smoothly. That particular boom depth and the boom height can actually dig and set a 45-foot pole. That's the only reason I was looking at that one particular brand. We tried doing it with one of the Hyundais that we rented from Pete's Equipment, and the boom doesn't go high enough, and it didn't work. So that's one reason I was talking to Scott about that Kubota, because I know it can be done, because they do it all the time for me.
Or can you get a John Deere that has the same, get a price on a John Deere that has the same
You
spec?
definitely can, we also have to look with John Deere to figure out if they're American.
I mean, because there might be a 50% on tariff on the Kubota by the time you get it.
That's right, but the only thing you gotta know with John Deere, and I don't know on tractors, but with John Deere, their lines all have a break point. And, smaller than a break point, they're not American made, they come from all over the world, and bigger than a break point, they're still American made. So, like, the small John Deeres you see in Home Depot, they're not John
Yeah,
Deeres.
I had a John Deere.
They're
310,
branded other people.
and it was made in the US, that's why.
Yeah.
One thing that was very important that you guys should know, because you didn't see it, but in that Kubota, correct me Penny on that name, we are eligible for, is it a Sourcey grant?
Sourcewell discount.
Sourcewell discount, and that discount off that Kubota was almost $26,000.
Okay, so now who local sells Kubotas? Does Pete sell Kubotas?
CTR. In Essex Junction.
Yeah, they're in Essex Junction.
Okay,
The Champlain,
Oh, excuse me, I got it backwards.
Champlain.
Sandy was CCR. Champlain Valley
Kubota, Champlain.
Equipment was the Kubota, sorry.
that's sort of like behind Lowe's, right?
They have one there, they have like 6 in the state.
Okay,
Champlain, Sandy's over there, yeah, CCR is out there by the, you're right.
that's the one that's owned by a former, general from the guard, what's his name?
Yeah. Yeah,
Good guy,
yeah, Champlain
if
Valley.
he's still on.
Yeah.
Champlain Valley or CCR?
Champlain,
Champlain,
Champlain.
yeah, used to sell, used to be Kubotas anymore, or used to be Holland.
it's
And
still
then,
New
now they
Holland.
went to, yeah.
It's still, they sell all of them.
First 4, then, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Well, what about in town here with the Leos? I see, the small, they've got a whole line of excavators and stuff. I don't know what kind they are, I don't know.
Those are cats.
Yeah, is it something that,
We can.
The only
get
thing that
more
we-
quotes, I'm happy to.
I mean, I don't know.
The only thing that makes me nervous about cat is Charles Curtis bought 2 brand new ones, and he's actually trying to sell them. They only have 100 hours on them right now, but they're full of nothing but electrical problems.
Oh, no.
So I kind of grit my teeth and like, ooh, guess I won't be going looking for theirs, because I saw he had one for sale. And I called him up like, why are you selling it? It's only got 105 hours on it. He says, I will tell you why, but I'm not telling everybody. But it's been nothing but, I don't know if that one is 11. I don't know if that one is 11 or what it is. Sorry, or whatever, sorry, Grady.
our next question is, how about, is the union okay with you guys running one of these things, or is there,
Yeah, there's no,
you're not limited as to what you can do if you're taking on new machinery?
No, we've got multiple people that have experience.
I would like to encourage keeping it all in-house so that we don't have to spend so much money on contractors.
Okay,
You know, and I even put it out there to Penny and Scott, I know past years, there's always been a kind of a line in a certain direction, and I don't see any reason why we can't reach out and help each other. I got guys down there right now with the water crew, that's what I would like to see more of in the future, keeping it in-house and taking care of our stuff ourselves.
okay, as long as it's okay with you guys and we get the grievances down the line.
And I know there's been a lot of discussion and stuff in the past, but this particular size, Kevin and I both, it's what we need for ours. You know, it's not getting into a situation again with anybody else that this is gonna be too big or too small. It's like perfect for all of our stuff that we need.
I mean, you guys are the one gonna run it, so I trust you, you know what you're doing. If we can get it American made, great, you know, whatever, but the other guys using it, you're the ones, you know, gonna be in it, so. We trust you.
I can confirm, you had at least 3 guys that, or 2 for sure, but I think it's Jackson.
Kyle's ran them a lot with the experience, my foreman's run them, Kyle came from Charles Curtis, and he's ran it a lot. My new guy ran them a little bit, not a lot, but, Mikey, B in our water department worked for the town of Morrisville, and he's got quite a bit of experience with one, so we've got at least 3-4 guys right here in-house that are qualified to use them.
Now, another thing to consider, we're not gonna alienate any of the contractors we depend on, like doing it ourselves.
I don't think so, but they're all busy, and again, we're not getting a big rig, like,
Okay,
we're not getting a.
Not like the one they're using in town right now.
It's actually similar to that
Yeah.
size, so, you know, but usually The only thing the reason that works is because we're on a sidewalk, you get into that street, there's this much concrete, and what we're buying is not going through that.
Okay.
We're not trying to.
They
have something
can't.
that big. Yeah, but
With that hammerhead.
we beat the crap out of the equipment
Yeah.
for that much, so we would still hire, when you need it, you just go hire someone.
And there is gonna be times where I need my contractor because he does do ledge holes for me, and we can't do that.
Yeah,
I was just going through looking at exactly how much money I've spent on just going off and doing the off-road poles. And my off-road anchors and such, and it was quite amazing on how much we were spending in a year on that.
Okay, and this thing's gonna be able to trim the trees too, trim the right of ways?
You're looking to buy the brush head with this unit, so that we can, you know, on rainy days and stuff, load it, you'll be right on the trailer, it can be pulled with the dump truck with our 1 ton. So we can bring it and put it in a right of way and cut some lines on rainy days, cold days.
We're talking about the brush head, the breaker, so, you know, to break through small.
That jackhammer head for it.
jackhammer, and it comes with 2 buckets, and then of course you gotta buy the right size trailer. All that goes with it is, you know, around $133,000 is the, but that's for the Kubota, so I suspect we'll spend less than that. You know, but the Kubota with all those attachments will be around a 4-year simple business payback.
But that'd be, I mean, that's up to you guys, if you guys want to look into, try to find an American made one,
We
to
can do that.
get a price, we can absolutely do
will.
something like
I'm
that.
fine with getting the excavator and all the
Yeah.
accessories. But I'd just like to know how much more the John Deere is, and
We will do
Yeah,
that.
we can find that out for you.
Yeah.
Is the John Deere the only one you wanna look into? I mean, there obviously is a cat, but I am nervous about the cat just
well,
because.
it sounds like you don't want the cat, you're gonna be running it.
Yeah, we'll look into John
I
Deere.
just was nervous of electrical problems, I didn't wanna try to end up getting like a
We
limited.
could look into, does anyone in Vermont still sell case?
They're in Essex, they do.
Okay, so we'll look into a couple of additional brands and try to get some pricing on that as well. And then, we'll have, we got no objection to that at
And
all.
I think, I'm pretty sure Caterpillar, all the electrical stuff is proprietary information. So you really can't, you're not gonna get a manual telling you how to fix it. You're gonna call them cat rep, but don't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Okay,
So,
sounds like what we should do is table it and, let us go get some more information for next meeting and then we'll bring it back.
but I'm definitely in favor of doing it, I just prefer to get a John Deere, an American made one.
Yep, and we'll make sure when we get the quote on a John Deere and any of the others, we'll make sure that we understand. A, are they American made, and B, if they're not, what percentages, right? And we can find that out, because a lot of these are pieces and parts from all over the world.
Which one gives us the $26,000?
That's the Kubota.
I mean,
No, it's a Sourcewell discount, so
Correct.
Sourcewell was new to me, and it sounds like it's, I don't know if it's like a discount type company,
It's a New York, something to do with New York.
or there was Minnesota.
Yeah, and then it's something to do with us with the municipality,
Municipalities.
we're eligible for that, they give us a discount.
So it's possible other vendors are.
Cause I know the sand only gave us 8,500 for a municipal discount on the same size
They
machine.
gave us 8,600,
Kubota gave us one heck of a
gave us
discount.
24,800, Kubota gave us 24,800, Santa gave us
So $25.
8,600 on that. So,
All right, do I have a motion to table this, action item?
motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you, we'll bring it back next time. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, other business.
So we got 2 meetings coming up, we have an informational meeting on April 2nd for the bond, and then we have, annual meeting on the 14th. So the informational meeting, I would just say we've got, our effort to get information out to people going. I visited with the select board this past Monday night and shared with them the project. They get really great turnouts at their meetings, so, right? There are a lot of people there. And so that's always helpful. And, we've got a postcard going out to all village residents that we put together with Alex. So that'll be dropped here.
Taxpayers.
all village taxpayers.
Taxpayers, not residents.
Correct, well, that's right, sorry, you're correct. All those taxpayers, that's going out in the next week or two. I think it sounds like the News and Citizen is, they're starting to ask questions like they wanna do a story, so that would be great, that would help us
A story on,
on the bond. So that would be good. And then we've got, Kevin has an op-ed put together,
Mhm.
so the week before the vote. We drop an op-ed. And none of this, we're not asking for votes, we're just trying to make sure people know, because the bond article, you're not allowed to actually explain anything. It's the total cost, and it looks like you're gonna borrow the total cost, and we're not. So we're just putting the information out to say, this is not going to cost you anything if you vote yes, you know? I'm not telling you to vote yes, we're just telling you, maybe half of it from the state, the other half is sewer allocation money, we're required to have a bond vote. So that's really what we're trying to get out there. So we're doing what we can to get the information out. Trustee will be dropping Facebook and Front Porch Forum posts and get that out there as well. So just trying to let people know that there's a reason to show up to vote on April 14th. But for the informational meeting, so the plan for that night, there'll be two separate meetings posted, both for 5:30. And the informational, we're required to have an informational hearing by state law for the bond article. So that'll happen first. Our engineers will be here to walk anyone that shows up through the project. So Jason Booth from A&E will be here. They'll be down in the lunchroom, because we don't know who will show up. And then we'll have a Q&A, so it's not a trustee meeting at that point, and you should all be there hopefully. This is a trustee meeting night. And then we'll take whatever questions the public has, we'll close the informational hearing, and then you'll have your trustee meeting. We'll have a very light agenda, like check registers, stuff like that, but we don't know how long the informational hearing will be. We'll just do that and get out of there. So what'll happen is that night, you'll actually open up because you have to post your meeting for a time. So the first thing that will happen is you'll open up your trustee meeting at 5:30. You'll immediately table the meeting. You have a motion to table the meeting. Then we'll open the informational hearing and have the informational hearing. And then you'll pull your trustee meeting off the table and have your trustee meeting. It's just, procedurally what we'll have to do. I'll have it all written up for you, Chair.
Okay.
Not a big deal. I just wanted to let you know, it's gonna be weird because both of them are required to be noticed for 5:30, right? So it's one of those weird things where we just have to do it this way. So, but for the informational hearing, nothing for you to do except, be there and,
You won't be here, right?
I won't be here.
that's okay, but just, it really is just to answer questions for people. So it's their chance to come get information before they vote. So that, and for annual meeting, I don't think there's anything new that we have for you about that. I just put it on there just in case you had any questions. Sarah was doing a final run through our report document, today when I was at town hall. So that's going to the printers very soon, so that'll be back soon, and
Oh, it went the other day.
she told me she was reviewing it still today when I was there, Penny. So it didn't go if she thought it was. So, or maybe she was reviewing a final proof, maybe it went and she's looking at the proof, but anyway, that's in process, that's kind of the last piece. And so all should be well for that.
I have a question now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have anything to do with that, but we tabled the village, designated downtown last time.
Correct.
Do we have to bring it up again and table it again?
I don't think so, because you didn't table it to a date certain.
Okay.
I have it on the agenda as the next item to make sure that you really don't want to do anything with it tonight. But I don't, usually, sometimes people table things to a date certain, and then you must take it up and retable it.
Okay.
But since you tabled it, kind of generically, it's just laying on the table right now.
Okay. Okay, the next item is the grid resilience.
So the grid resilience grant, I just want you to be aware, don't know that I need an approval from you at any point, but I don't need it tonight, even if we do. So, and I don't know if this is all gonna go away, with the federal government clawing money back. But the state got around 7.9 or $7.8 million from the IJA, which was the climate the Biden climate law,
Mhm.
for grid resilience. And they put out a solicitation to utilities. They've told us both that it's a formula thing, so you, basically they said Morrisville Water and Light will get $343,000. But then in another part of the solicitation is they said it's a competitive grant making process. So which one is it, right? So, and we don't know, like, since the money hasn't been spent, is the federal government gonna say, no, you're not really, we're taking that money back from you? I don't know. So what I want to make sure you know is we've sent in a preliminary, because they wanted multiple rounds to see what kind of project ideas people have. We sent in while our number is 343,000, since we don't know if it's formula or really competitive, we've sent in a little over 500,000 of project ideas, that we have, that Rusty came up with. Everything from taking a cross-country run on Lower Elmore that goes down almost every time anything happens, to bring that out to the road, to helping with, catching up on, some of our transmission line clearing. Frankly, we've included this excavator, so, the notion that we'll do more reliability clearing, we have the tool. Some improvements, control technology improvements for reliability in sub 3 and sub 5. And what am I missing? Must be something else.
That's pretty close, and just the different vegetations
Some
and
others.
a couple other areas that are troubled areas.
Yeah, so what that would do for us is frankly, help us get caught up a little bit with some of what we've been behind on veg management. And I will say, maybe it's just dumb luck, but the last couple times we've had, pretty good blows around here. We've had one or two little onesie twosie outages, but I mean, not on wood, right? But, we haven't had big outages and some of it is just dumb luck. Let's just say that. And some of it is the more of this vegetative management you do, the less outages you have. It's just a true statement, right? So I think we're seeing a little bit of both, having a string of good luck. And I think it's starting to pay some dividends and we just gotta keep at it. And so that's at least the approach. We may at a subsequent meeting need you to actually vote to authorize us to submit the final grant. I don't know, I haven't even talked to Penny. Penny's been deep in audit stuff and I've been trying to stay right away from her. Not for any reason, but to give her time to do the job, so don't misinterpret. But, so I haven't even had a chance to talk to anybody about it, but, so it may be a future agenda, item. Just wanted you to be aware.
Okay,
What's the timing, do you think, or do you have any idea?
End of April is when they're due, I
Yeah.
think it's April 28th, and then the state will be then making decisions. They're not quite sure what they're allowed to do for a process, because they're actually having a webinar tomorrow. I think Rusty's gonna listen to, but the reason, when I asked VEPSA to find out for me, why did they have a formula funding and a competitive in the same thing? The person from the state said, because we don't have any guidance from the federal government about how we're allowed to spend this money, so we put them both in. So I don't think he's gonna hear anything tomorrow about that or the timing, but so. I suspect as a result, it'll take them a little while to make a decision, so I wouldn't be shocked if it took till July or August.
so can we preemptively give you permission to pass a resolution to apply for the grant? Sounds like you don't know what it is anyway. Could be 300, could be 5.
You certainly could, you could move to the action agenda and authorize the submittal of a grant for grid resiliency.
Can we do that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Make a resolution to authorize, management to apply for the, grid resilience grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, no.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Ayes
Thank
have
you.
it.
Thank you very much. And then I think. Management report, so, anything on Kevin's, I would just note, while you're looking at his part of the report. Couple updates on water to go with it, the sewer lining's been going on, the last couple nights, it also goes on tonight, and then we'll be done with that project for this year. We've been telling you it's been coming.
To be clear, that's the 2024 portion, and we still have
correct.
what was put in the 25 budget that will
Correct.
happen at some point.
We continue to work, as you know, he noted all the stuff with FEMA and the state. We continue to bang on mitigation projects to secure the water supply down there. What I think is clear at this point is neither the state nor FEMA is gonna touch building a new well. So to the extent we wanna do a new well someday, we'll be on our own for that.
Mhm.
At least it won't be mitigation money. We can always get into the queue through the clean water protection process with ANR. But it won't be through mitigation, at least at this point, it doesn't look like it.
There was a reporter from CAX this morning, standing in front of the dam at Katie's Falls, talking about drinking water. Well, didn't have anything to do with
Yeah, I heard about that.
dam at
I don't know.
Katie's Falls. Sounded good.
And it was really weird that we had a water main break, or we thought we had a water main break at the same time, I'm like, oh,
That
don't mix
was the
those
next,
up.
that was the next step.
Yeah. So we are making more progress with the aquifer protection in well 3. The state's really pretty clearly interested in helping us with the aquifer protection.
Mhm.
And FEMA is currently saying they're interested in both the aquifer protection and the well 3 improvements. So we'll see how this plays out. We have no surety, we have no guarantee. The clocks tick in, they both have an expiration date, for when they can give us money. FEMA, for the first time, I would say, since the 2023 flood, the person working on the mitigation that both seems to be willing to make decisions and seems to somewhat know what he's talking about. Our contractors, our FEMA contractors have been pushing them hard on our behalf.
Good.
So I've got no guarantees, and I won't tell you I have any guarantees, but we're at least making progress on those 2 fronts. So that's going all right. And the last piece, I want you to know that we had a complaint, might be too strong a word, but very strong citizen interest in having a conversation about fluoride in the water. They were citing a study that claimed that there's a nexus between fluoride in the water and IQ. I think I heard about that study, and I think it's really radically high levels of fluoride. Even at some point, he's gonna come and chat with you, which I certainly told him he should whenever he wants. In the meantime, what I told him I would do, because frankly, you're gonna want this information anyway, is get the current position of both the Vermont Department of Health, and the Vermont Drinking Water Program as to what their recommendation is and if it's even a local choice.
Does this person live in the village of Morrisville and have village water?
Yes. So,
Does he, or does he just have a business here?
maybe just as a business, I don't know, Penny,
Okay.
to be honest with you. So.
Well, he doesn't live in Morrisville then, does he?
I'm not sure, we'd have to check,
I'll
but
have to check, maybe
I know he has,
But to have standing, you gotta be a village voter.
right, cause you have to vote, it's a village vote. My understanding is what would have to happen.
No, what I mean is to have standing in front of this, if you wanna come in front of this board,
Oh.
to have standing, you have to have the village,
Correct.
be a village resident, or get 2/3 of the village residents at the meeting to allow you to speak.
These,
We can find that out,
this
but-
issue comes up all over Vermont on a regular basis. So this is, I dealt with this back in the 90s when I was public works director in Burlington twice. And that's why my recommendation, which is what I told them I would do, is, I'm always gonna wanna put the Department of Health and the drinking water program in front of the decision makers. Because they're the people that are supposed to actually have the information and the knowledge to give us a recommendation on what the current state of the science is. I don't know what the current state of the science is. I don't know what's a good study. and what's a
Well,
junk
this guy
study.
knows current state of the science, I mean, he knows what he wants. from
Definitely
science.
speaks as if he does, and I don't know, because I've heard of this study, I don't know if it's good science or junk science, I don't mean that pejoratively, because I don't know.
No, there's plenty of junk.
But the state will
You
know.
use that word.
The state will know, they make it their business to know.
I know that we've had other, residents that have
Yeah, I'm
asked
sure.
about it, but my understanding is it's not a trustee vote, it's a village voter vote. Like it would have to be brought up on a special, I could be wrong, but for some reason that's,
So yes, and, I mean, there's 2 pathways that both probably result in the village vote. One is the trustees could could set a special meeting for a vote, and the other could be through a petition, right? So
Is that
yes.
because it was voted by the village originally to do
I
it?
don't recall, I just know that this has come up plenty of times, and John has mentioned that the only way to get rid of it is by having a vote of the village. Taxpayers.
We'd have to check. I don't know that that's true, Penny. It might be true, but I don't know that it's true. I think places in Vermont have done it different ways. But if we get, the first step is to get the state of the science, right? And so that's what we're doing first. In the meantime,
Well, even, the first step is, do we have a say? Is it state or is it federally mandated? Because if it is, then there's nothing you can do about it, right?
right.
Yeah,
I
let's find
think,
that out first, cause
I
you can't just take stuff in and put it out of your water without,
correct.
on our own, I mean, that, to me,
I know there is other municipalities that don't have it in their water.
Correct. So I think there's a way.
Use fluoride in their water.
Yeah, I think there is a way to take it out local, to make a local decision. I think you're gonna live with a lot of additional oversight from DEC, Drinking Water Division, if you do. Because they regulate the ever-loving crap out of us to make sure we're putting enough in.
I mean, what if somebody doesn't like chlorine, I mean.
Right.
What are we gonna do?
But I think that there is a way, I think it's a complicated way to get local control away from the state, but I do think there's a way, I think Rusty's right. But I think
The amount-
Richmond did it,
Something's telling us how much to put in, right?
yeah, the state,
Okay,
the state, the DEC.
so they have a band or something like a high-low.
They have a high-low.
Clean.
And they test the water, and I remember Brian saying something about how our numbers were a little wonky. And I think it's the fluoride that they got a new machine to put
Yep,
the amount of fluoride in,
Yeah,
like the state paid to give us a new machine that would put it in.
so more to come, and I will just tell you, if it comes up from one person, just my experience in other communities. We're gonna hear more about this, cause this is one of those things that gains momentum in the community. And so there's gonna be a wave, so that's why I figured, I wasn't, not trying to gauge where any of you are on it. But the best thing to do is find out, where the state of the science is first. So, cause then that at least gives you a starting point for a conversation, and then you make your choice, right? So just now that it's coming up, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody at village meeting brings it up when we get to the conversation at the community level, but. The minute it comes up in a community, it's all of a sudden there's, there'll be a group of 10 people that are interested in it, that's what happens.
What I would say, Scott, you may not have been here, but it has definitely come up in
I'm
this
sure it
community
has.
before, it has, I mean,
It's come up everywhere,
Yeah.
so it goes, like I said, it goes in a cycle all over the state. So. And there's definitely 2 or 3 or 4 around the state that have opted out, like Rusty said, and he's definitely correct about that. One place they did it, the water operator made the decision himself without telling anybody, because he thought it was what was best for the community, and about 2 weeks later, he didn't have a job. So we're not gonna make the decision on our own, I mean, that's what I'm telling you. Whoops. So, that was the other thing on Kevin's report, but did you have any questions about Kevin's report? Other than that, those are the ones I wanted to just mention. All right, how about, Rusty?
Just got down there, I did a new service on it, but we did a new service on Randolph Road. We just had our yearly IR analysis done on the entire system. And we've been making repairs to the report, making repairs required by the report, excuse me.
Who does that?
IR analysis does it for us.
Oh, it's a company?
Yeah. Would you explain what an IR analysis is?
Sure. IR analysis is, we pick one of our employees to take, it's actually part of the contract, we have to drive them around. They ride, all the way on our system, and they actually have an infrared, unit with a screen, so they basically drive down the road and just shining our whole transmission line. And what it does is it picks up hot points. I should have actually brought some of the colors on it in so you can see it, so. We send them around to do all of our transmission lines, we have them do all of our 3-phase banks in the industrial parks. They check out all of our substations, they do our hydros, inside our hydro systems, they do the inside of the sewer plants as well. And what they do is they look for all the hot points, obviously if there's heat there, there's a trouble there. Rather a piece of equipment is failing, or there may be loose connections or such, so. they write our whole system and then they run me a report and they send me the report and they have moderate, desired, or immediate action needs to be taking place on stuff. We actually have a few arresters in sub 3 that actually are failing. So we've got those on order, so as soon as we get those in, we're gonna change those out so we don't have a problem in there. We've actually had quite a few arresters on the system that actually are in the tendency to fail, so we wanna change those immediately. When we get into 3-phase banks, a lot of times we just found it's just loose connections. It picks them out, so we go over and we tighten up the connections. Sometimes we'll have to pull an outage and actually take it apart, re-clean them and put it back together, tighten it all down. But we do that every year, just so that we can catch, so especially the equipment failures, it really points out the heat on some of this equipment so we can catch that, because we can't see that stuff physically without that infrared unit, so.
Does this same company do vibration analysis?
I could not answer that for you, but I don't know, I've never.
The reason
I've
I'm
never
asking
heard.
is, we used to get the infrared surveys done on all our equipment, and the same guy did the vibration analysis.
Oh, really?
3 different companies, they did both, so when they came out, if the guys flew over to think they were gonna see it, he did both.
I've never heard of a utility doing the vibration study.
No, and your generators and your big pumps.
Oh, okay. Okay, so something we could look into. I
Just
don't
asking if he doesn't.
Cause we actually have a little bit of a vibration problem on our lines. So we've actually have a few areas that we are experiencing some issues and we have purchased some vibration dampers and put it in those areas. Especially up by Lake Elmore. They're get vibrating so bad that they break the ties and then the wires fall off the insulators. So we ended up installing 28 vibration dampers in several different places on the system just in the last month, just to get ahead of that.
I mean, the stuff I'm talking about, will tell you, bad coupling, or bad bearing,
Yep,
bad
yeah,
misalignment.
correct. Yeah, no, I knew exactly what you're talking about.
The main transmission line is gonna go through the industrial park area there. I think we discussed about with the removing of the rocks and everything like that. Is it gonna affect the power lines? Was that something?
The blasting that they're doing with that.
You're talking down by the
By the
airport?
airport, yeah, like, would that be something we need to?
Definitely, once they're done and stuff, if we really had to, we can actually have them come back out and check that one line.
Yeah.
But depending on when they do it, we are obviously gonna catch it the following
Yeah, I
year.
just.
So there'll be-
Yeah, no,
I mean, you said you put them in places that seem, I mean, maybe.
Just so you know, there'll be,
Either ahead of time or something.
when that project happens, they'll be replacing almost all the poles across that property. And, is it capacitors, what's in that area of the,
there's a capacitor rate.
so they're gonna be replacing some of those, that whole system as well.
So you can put in all that. The charge vibration.
Yeah, basically, when they came and saw David and I at the time, that's why I'm saying, I don't know if you even know this. What we told them is, one, they had to plat the right of way across there. And 2, they had to do certain upgrades, because we were worried about, the equipment.
We want them to actually put all those brand new poly insulators on there, right, the glass that are there now. Those problems are from the littlest vibration will crack, and you don't know about them, they just sit there until something happens and then it falls off.
yeah.
So that's one reason why I do know that we were pushing to have them change that infrastructure, so that way we didn't have to worry about that from all the vibration.
Yeah.
You put it all on new stuff and the new poly insulators, everything goes in and it tightens right up, so it's not gonna go nowhere and it's not gonna break.
Yeah.
We take all the glass out of the picture.
Exactly.
We did have to take care of some danger trees over on Route 15A. They're doing a lot of Empower work, catching up on some of that stuff, or doing our line extensions. Our monthly checks in the substations, and we've had some trouble calls. Low wires, unfortunately, a couple of them in the middle of the night just have not been us. Nothing we can do to kind of resolve that, because we don't want people to get hurt. And we had a couple transformers fail on us, and calling for some trouble.
I added the last one, Rusty, to you.
I saw you did that, I was like,
So basically, I added it because Rusty and Eric went to Swanton as part of the AMI project, so basically. They went up to witness the test on, basically, they call them the fat meters, but I don't even know what that stands for, but they're basically, there's 4 meters that. The first 4 meters off the production line get configured in the way that they're set up for all the utilities. You get sent to a testing station, so they got, since Swanton's going first, they got sent up to their shop. They'd already tested them all, and then they offered the opportunity for the reps from every community that's gonna be using those meters to come up and then witness a second round of testing. So that Eric and Rusty could actually have eyes on it and make sure that everything that we asked for it to be able to do in configuration, the test meters are doing. That then opens, now that it passed that bar, it opens the opportunity whenever we're ready to order meters, we're now allowed to. We're not anywhere near ready to order meters at Morrisville because, you know, it's not our turn, so.
Now, the last time, it was quite a while ago, it was probably 15 years ago. They put in some smart meters and like 80% of the people in the town didn't want them because of the electromagnetic fields.
So,
there are
we did it in our book 6 territory and there was 200 meters, I think we were trying to put in, and we put in about 180, so it was like it wasn't as big as you're talking about.
Okay, I
We did
thought
not
it was.
offer it to everybody, it was only in book 6.
So the other
It
thing
was like a
is,
test pilot that we did.
the other is the way it's done now is, so it'll be an opt-out, so you're getting it unless you opt out. And other places that have put these in, it usually starts out between 1.5% and 5% opt-out. And then over the subsequent 4 or 5 years, it goes to about less than 1%.
So the last go around, you only put so many in, you didn't have.
No,
No,
Yeah,
it was just a pilot that we were trying to do. and-
80% comes from everybody that wasn't included in it.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not even sure where that came from.
I got one, I don't think it's done anything to me.
Yeah.
Actually, I got 2.
if you're really worried about that, you should have one of those things sitting next to you.
Oh, these, yeah.
Probably your wireless.
They're doing tests, right?
Your wireless router, I work.
Exactly, so. Anyway, I just wanna let you know, and the other thing that it gave Rusty a chance to do is, we have to put like, in our service territory, I think the estimate is 19 of these big things called DCUs, which are basically the repeaters that the AMI meters talk to, and then communicate to the software. So Rusty got to go see how Swanton's put theirs in the air, how they work, what the setups are like, because they already have theirs in the air, so that was also a useful thing in terms of getting ready. Because we will, over the arc of the summer, we probably will have those DCUs show up and we'll have to do the make ready work.
So those just use the Wi-Fi from the meters.
no, you gotta put power to the unit.
Yeah.
Once you put power to the unit, that unit is going to gather the meters. There is some spots that, correct me if I'm not right, either one of you, but there is a couple spots because of distances that you will have like a mother that actually will collect and then she'll distribute it to one of those tower units. It's a, you know, when you're going out there, you'll see a pole with like an aluminum, looks like an aluminum cross on the top, it's got 2 antennas. Very simple, those 2 antennas go down into a box that's, you know, not real big, but decent size, and we just gotta feed them with power. And once they're fed with power, they just sit up there and gather information and launch it to the server.
And the nice thing is these same DCUs, you know, we already have on almost all the meters, we have little communication devices for water on the outside of the house. So these same DCUs will be replacing those as well in the water system, and the same DCU will gather both electric and water and send them along. So it'll be kind of a double hit, which is good. So, just wanted to give you an update, because that's actually progress on the AMI project, which we haven't had a lot of progress in a while, so that would be worth at least telling you about it. So. Penny, anything you wanna talk about?
2 things, the audit, I'm still plugging away with that, thing I'm working on now is just trying to determine whether we've had enough grant and FEMA money where the expenditures have hit over 750,000, and whether or not we need to have a specialized audit, so I'm working through that, I've been doing that all week, and still trying to make my way through it all.
Something has happened in the past, or?
We have not had this since, back when we received all the money for the sewer plant.
Oh,
the sewer plant upgrade that required a single audit.
okay.
The threshold right now is, I think, 750,000. And I'm still working my way through some of this FEMA cost and it's tough because what we actually record on our books is different than like what FEMA would allow. Because we have different payroll adders, we have invoice adders, there's things like some jobs, they don't allow us to take straight time, only the overtime, so.
Okay.
I'm making my way through each basically job and or FEMA project. The other thing I wanted to mention is between Rusty, myself, the billing person and Eric, we spent quite a bit of time at 201 Bridge Street. It's an apartment building and there were 12 meters that were swapped, meaning what they had originally told us went to certain apartments, didn't. They went to,
No. Is 12 meters. They're
12
running,
meters out
Nineteen.
of 19
19
and
apartments and 12 of them were going to the wrong units.
but all these apartments are in the same building, or?
yes, yes.
So people were paying the wrong bills, they were paying.
I'm just trying to think of where on Bridge Street is a building with 19 units.
But there's a lot of
There's a lot of,
apartment buildings, so because of that, and we had the same thing with 72 Upper Main.
Same electrical contractor?
We reached out to the landlord and basically said, hey, we want to do an audit of all your properties. We got quite a bit of pushback. So they have decided to do their own audit, I guess. We know that they went to one building because one of our employees' sons live in it, so. And we think that there are at least two meters swapped there, we think, we haven't heard from them. There were two properties on Gordon Lane that are no longer owned by that landlord, and Eric was able to get in. One of the units, I'm not sure how many meters are in there, was 100% fine. The other one, 12 meters out of 16 were swapped. That one's a little bit easier because they weren't putting the accounts in tenant's names, so they weren't going back and forth between the landlord and tenant. It's all one person that paid it, so if
That's the loyal housing project.
if they paid the wrong thing, it's okay, we're gonna get it right. I have been in contact with the Department of Public Service, kind of, needed to put it out there because it's not really an us issue, although to the customer, it looks like it is.
We swap, is that just a mess up or is that intentional? What is this?
No, it's a mess up on their end, basically, at the breaker, they say it's gonna go to apartment 201, but then in the end, it's actually, when they label that apartment, that door, they label it as 204. And so,
and it's not going to 204, it might be going to 206 instead.
yeah, so that's what
I
ends
think
up
it's a
happening.
thing where the architects label the building a certain way, and at the end, the building owner decides to.
We're gonna do it out.
Somebody
When
does.
it says
Members-
swap, it sounds like intentionally. rather just-
I
No.
don't think that happened.
That's what I'm saying, that's all I'm about.
It's getting sticky on where the problem's coming from. Because one person is saying that it's labeled correctly, the other person is saying that in the process, when they leave, the units are labeled as 1, 2, 3, you know, up to like 19 units. Then they're saying that the building person, people are coming in and putting 201, 203, 204. Whether they're going left to right or right to left, that's,
But
we
you
don't
have a
know, but
serial
it's
number on the meter, don't you?
serial numbers, yes,
On the meter.
we have numbers on it.
Yeah.
But we're putting them to that, where the electrician is saying that it's going.
Yeah.
So we're going to putting a meter in there to unit number 1.
Mm-hmm.
We're trusting that that's
That
unit number 1,
right,
because that's their job.
right.
You know, they're getting inspected by the water inspector,
Yeah,
that is done and it's done correctly.
right.
But the unfortunate part is wherever something is going wrong, either that step or the numbering step, it's not matching up because we're getting apartments that are switched.
Like the one that Eric found today
12
was
apartments are switched.
1, 2, 3, 4, but it was actually 4, 3, 2, 1, and. You know, I think 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, I know
8.
exactly.
Were people complain, I mean, how do we get? become
So
aware?
the reason they got found, maybe in both places, at 201 Bridge, there was this single mom with a young kid. Had shut her heat off completely and she was still getting,
Sleeping in winter coats and everything, just trying to get her
She was
built.
getting big bills.
yeah, and so she came in, and so knowing that we had had a similar situation with this, the different property by that landlord, we went in and checked. And the individual that, whose bill it actually was, had indicated to go on, they had at least 3 people in their apartment. And they told me that they have their heat cranked because their windows are drafty. So, and so this woman should have been getting, like, in a matter of 3 or 4 months, only like $60 worth of bills, and she was getting like $600 worth of bills, so that's how it gets found. You know, the landlord told Rusty that he didn't want to check some of the older units because people would know and people would complain by now. The ones I checked at, whatever property it was,
50 Upper Main's been there for what, 4 years, 5 years now?
yeah,
And that
the
one was
individual had been in there for a year and it looked like he was paying at least 2 to 3 times his usage without questioning it for a year. So.
Now, does the state have an electrical inspector that goes around and inspect this, or does self-inspect?
He comes over there, once that unit is been marked out and that unit is labeled, he comes over, the electrical inspector comes over and he looks it over, sees that it's been wired correctly. He does not sit there and go through,
To see where the meter
he
goes.
does not go through with each one, they do not do that. And the wire inspector gives him a permit for it.
Mhm.
Once we have a permit, it's stating that it is wired and it is ready for us to give him his meters, and
So there's probably nothing in the electrical code saying that the meter you have goes to your
Yeah.
unit.
But I bring this up just because, and I don't even know where we're at with costs on this particular one, after the additional time from this past week. But, you know, I think that's part of the issue with this landlord. He doesn't wanna pay for our time to go in to inspect these. But in the end, we need to make sure they're right, cause we're the ones facing the customer.
So,
Who corrects it, or who's?
when Eric and I were involved, we were taking his employee, one of his secretaries. Cause she's the apartment manager, she would knock on the door and enter the building. We were on the phone with her, we would turn what is supposed to be 201, we would turn the breaker off. Did the power go off in the unit? Yes or no? She would go in every unit, that's what we were doing.
yeah, that's the only way you can do it.
And his point of view is we're standing there doing nothing. So he has a problem with paying 4-hour service of going there and making sure it's done.
Well, no, you're not doing nothing, just like if you're sitting in your office, you're doing nothing,
Yeah.
you know, you're testing the system that they should have tested.
Yeah.
But how does this lady that paid 600 instead of 60 get her money back?
We did an adjustment, so one of the office people did a bunch of work to pull the data down, I did a lot of analytical workings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy, you know, like if you move in at the same time I move in and our meters are swapped, it's easy. But we had some where there were people moving in and out and, you know, my bill, you know, might be going up and down and I don't really pay attention when it was really because somebody was moving in and out. So, like I had over 3 hours just analyzing it and then making the adjustments to get to the billing person's
pay enough, the people that didn't pay enough are gonna get the bill,
Yes.
they'll.
So of the 6 that got a higher bill, higher adjustment, 2 have paid, 2 have made payment arrangements, and 2 we haven't heard from yet. Again, I communicated with the DPS, so they're well aware of it, and they kind of let everybody know. Hopefully there's not gonna be an issue. 72 Upper Main, we actually had somebody call the DPS, and that happened, I don't know, sometime last year, middle of the year. And I'm only bringing it up now because again, 12 meters out of 19 is a lot.
They just stuck it wherever they
12
want.
meters out of 16 is a lot, and it's just.
And if we don't get cooperation, we will get somebody involved, and just so you guys know, so in order to make these audits happen, so. You might hear some on the street, so.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to we're not going to be stiff-armed and told we're not allowed to fix this. So just for what it's
And
worth.
who would that be?
Hmm?
Who would be acting, who would be doing that?
The wire inspector
The wire inspector, and
told me
if
that
that
if he
fails,
has to, he can.
if the wire inspector fails, we'll get our attorney involved, but we're not going to allow this to. People can't be paying somebody else's bill, it's not right. So,
And we need to fix it now,
whether.
because the longer it goes,
The
it's,
bigger it is.
the bigger it is,
Whether it's
the more work it's.
whether it's the property owner, or the electrician, is a distinction without difference to us. And it's a distinction without difference to the customer. You know, the customer's getting this bill because of an action that the owner's ultimately responsible for.
Mhm.
So it has to get corrected.
But we've talked about a way to mitigate this for the future. Like, if there's a multi-unit building going in, we're gonna give them only 1 meter. And they're gonna do whatever they need to do all their wiring, and then when it's time.
It's gonna be checked with a meter,
Yeah.
with each unit, before
Yeah, before
they
you
issue
them
them
out.
any more meters, we'll give them 1 meter to test every unit. We can put it in that unit, check it, so on and so forth, if it checks and verifies, you can get your meters. Cause this can't keep happening.
So,
Wow.
yep. So we're on it.
That's all I had.
Really, the point was just to make sure you know when you hear noise on the street, it's all true and unfortunately, it's created a real problem for some of our customers and a real problem for our front office staff, because they're not doing the stuff that we need them to do every day, because this has been very non-trivial.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's taken a long time.
You move into an apartment, you have no idea if you're paying more than you should be.
Right, how would you know?
Right.
Well, like the individuals
worst part-
today, like the individual that's paying at least 2 to 3 times more, he might not have a clue, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be paying, but this woman, this single woman with a child she's like, I've shut my heat off, but my bill keeps going up, like it's making no sense, and.
Well, the people that were cranking under heat, they probably weren't paying hardly anything,
Right.
this is great.
This is great.
Let's just, we'll keep the windows up.
Let's get a car, well, electric car.
I mean, the worst part about it is all these units are electric heat, and they have to pay their own utilities, so,
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't small monthly fees here for some of them, I mean, during the winter time, it's electric heat. and
Originally, they weren't supposed to be electric heat, they were gonna be propane,
Mhm.
because they got the propane tanks buried. And then when they decided to go with, selling to Oil Housing Partnership, they wanted the heat pumps.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I think Dave told me they didn't size the service for 15 heat pumps.
Correct.
I mean, it works, but
Somebody might not.
No,
So. Alright, well, anything else for you that's come up? I know you have a short report, but you've been pretty focused on a couple things.
No, this pretty much audit.
Yeah.
Can I warn these guys about something that they may be seeing coming their way?
Absolutely.
Just letting you know that I've been, being bugged by a realtor here in town. That there is a piece of property that, has been subdivided up behind this, Shamrock restaurant. That they're obviously looking for us to get power. Scott did clarify me up pretty good on, we have the right to serve. There's 4 individuals around this one property that fought them to get against them getting it subdivided. And it did get subdivided, so I do have to give them power if they're ready to give them power. My only option is to go into the right of way of the town, so obviously I'm going to anger those 4 individuals because I'm gonna be putting power right in front of their houses that they don't want. But I wanted you guys,
what street is this?
between Langdale and Sunset Drive.
Okay.
So I just want you guys to be aware that Kevin's not here, but he's gonna be getting the next phone call because they need water to this place.
That's right, and I
This piece
think,
of property,
the answer is.
it's a 100-foot by 100-foot piece of property.
Kind of a lot they created, and it probably will never come to pass that you'll have to put the power, because they can't get water or sewer out there without your approval, and it's outside the village.
I'm just giving you a heads up that you're gonna see somebody
So-
asking for a water.
We'll have a
extension in that area.
request.
Well, the water and sewer is at the Shalom, right?
Sure.
It's outside the village.
The water's on,
We've said,
Center Road.
we've said until we fix the water supply, we're not extending the line,
Cause they'd have to
Right.
extend the
and
water.
they'd have to extend the line, so.
Mhm.
I'm assuming they'll probably wanna come see you. I've already told the town and others that are talking to these people, they haven't come to see us in Kevin's stead. But I've told folks that are talking to them that based on recent decisions, they should expect to be told, not no forever, but no. Until we have addressed the water supply issues.
Mhm.
So
Just let me know,
aware
you'll
of
see
that.
people coming for that. So-
okay,
I don't know how it slipped through, I mean, honestly, particularly for a postage stamp 100 by 100 lot, like. That subdivision should not have been approved without letters of ability to serve from us.
approved the TRB
I don't know.
recently?
I
It
don't
was
even
done
know.
last year.
Yeah, so
It was done last
I
year.
don't know if the DRB did or if it was within Todd's power as planning
If
director.
the lot was small enough, Todd could do it himself.
But typically, he would have checked with us to make
Yeah.
sure that we could serve, and that clearly didn't happen, but it doesn't matter, it's water over the dam, but just, I mean, honestly, that lot shouldn't have been able to be created without this having been talked about on the front end, not the back end.
Mhm.
Cause now somebody's got a lot they wanna sell for a lot of money, and they feel like they're stuck.
He did ask me last year, about it. The gentleman that owns the land called and asked me if I would write him a right of way, because he's having a problem with a neighbor. And I told him that Morrisville Water Line was not getting involved with that, I said, you ought to not do this because I can't get you power there.
Mhm.
And I don't know who, you know, like we said, I don't know where it ever went, but
So is this guy owned the lot for a long time, or he just bought it?
the gentleman that owns it has owned it for quite a while, and the gentleman wants to sell his house as one piece and sell his postage stamp for another piece, and he has a realtor wanting to sell it, so the realtor is digging into wanting to make sure if they can sell this property.
Anyway.
Anyway, so I just
maybe
wanted
show up here.
I just wanted to warn you that,
Yeah,
somebody is gonna be coming and looking for another water extension, just so you guys are aware of that,
okay.
so.
The update I have for you was the one I wrote about, but I can have more information, so the town is now clear on downtown designation that they're applying in September, not April.
Mhm.
So, what happened was, and I don't, this is ish, cause I don't have a detailed account of what happened at the planning commission. So as you heard last meeting, the planning commission was gonna, approve of the zoning changes again and.
They sent it to a lawyer to be reviewed.
Hearing, and somewhere along the way, it was more complicated, there's some more changes that have to happen to the language that was in the original zoning proposal. I don't know what the changes are or where they came from, but the planning commission at their first meeting couldn't approve them. So that basically kicked the timeline. So we've got plenty of time to deal with this, you don't really need to take this off the table, obviously it hasn't been posted, so I at least wanted to give you the update to make sure that you know what's going on. So as of today, Brent has told me that they're clearly on a track for September now, so that gives us time for the planning commission to figure out exactly what it needs to look like to post, and then it can go forward. There's no controversy about the one that you all care the most about, which is the height restriction. I don't believe it had to do with that, I believe it had to do with basically language. Language and process, that's what I think it was about, but I don't know, so in detail, I've just heard characterizations of what happened.
There were a lot of comments.
Yeah.
So no action for now, sometime between now and August, we'll have to deal with it. So, wanted to make sure you're aware, and then I'm gone the next 5 or 6 days, so just be aware of that. But other than that, unless you have questions for me, that's all I have.
Nope. Good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You wanna adjourn?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I've got 6:38.
Good evening, everyone.